in to Better Advertising with Better Media, a show where we talk e-commerce advertising on some of today's biggest marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart. I'm your host, Justin Nuckols, and my guest today is also Justin. We're welcoming on Justin Chen from PickFu, one of the easiest ways for sellers and brands to get market research and consumer data by running targeted polls to your specific customer type. As much as we talk with brands about click-through rate and conversion rate on key search terms relevant to your product, this conversation today may provide great ideas on how to collect feedback before investing heavily in ranking your products. On that note, let's welcome in our guest, Justin Chen.
Yeah, nice to be here, Justin.
I wanted to give everybody an introduction to yourself. I come from a place of using your service, PickFu, but in case anybody has never heard of PickFu, wanted to, one, introduce yourself as the co-founder, and B, introduce your company and what you guys do. So I'll let you take it from there.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Justin Chen, the other Justin, and I'm the co-founder of PickFu. I'm based over here in Los Angeles, and PickFu is basically think of it as a digital focus group that allows you to get really fast consumer feedback on anything that you're working on. So if you're selling products online or in retail, you can get feedback on your product designs, your product concepts, branding, logos, any of that stuff as you're designing your product. And then as you're marketing your product, things like your imagery, your marketing creatives, copy, anything like that. Basically, we've got a panel of people in the US and outside the US that will pay to vote on different options that they like, give you a written explanation of why they made that choice, and give you demographic information. And so it's an incredible way to tap into your target audience and really understand if the things that you're planning to sell are going to sell.
Yeah. And I come from a place of, again, using it within private label back when I managed a brand and was launching a brand. But if I remember correctly, you could refine who you're testing this on, right? Like very specific demographics, psychographics, purchase habits. So you can make sure you're testing your ideas and your designs or whatever you're testing by the people you want purchasing your product. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's right. So we have a lot of basic demographic information to start off. So we have gender and age and income and things like that. But we also have behavioral type things like maybe they are really active in sports, or maybe they take nutritional supplements, or they use cosmetic products. Maybe they're a dog owner, a coffee drinker. Any of those things, you'll probably be able to find an attribute that kind of closely matches, your target audience to be able to get relevant feedback.
So what was kind of the gap in the market that you saw when you and your co-founder really kicked off PickFu? What was the origin story of it all?
Yeah, so we actually built this over a decade ago as a side project because we were working on a completely different business together. We were working on a website and we were doing a redesign. We couldn't decide on which design to go with. We were going to go into a coffee shop and talk to people as some entrepreneurs do, but being engineers and introverts, we decided to build a software solution to do so we didn't have to talk to anyone in person. And so that's kind of where PickFu was born. We threw it out there on the internet thinking other entrepreneurs would want to do the same. The whole concept around lean validation, idea validation was kind of picking up steam. And so we definitely saw a lot of people testing startup ideas and logos and these kinds of things where normally you would ask friends and family, but they're not really your target audience. And a lot of people didn't want to go out into the real world and try to find people on their own.
I remember one of the biggest draws for me as a young entrepreneur with limited funds was especially testing logos and things like that. You don't want to print, thousands of products with a logo that nobody likes or no one resonates with, or, put up copy on a listing and have not sell for weeks. So rather than waiting to test those things, you could find out a lot of things ahead of time and save yourself those lessons.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to help you avoid costly mistakes. And I think in e-commerce or retail in general, you're going to be investing thousands of dollars into your product. You're stocking all this inventory. And so you want to have some directional feedback if those are the right things, if you've made the right creative decisions. A lot of times people come to us because they're testing out like main imagery on their Amazon listing. And the feedback that they inevitably get on the PickFu polls is that the branding or the product packaging or the product design even is what doesn't resonate with them. And that's unfortunate because they've already bought all that inventory. They were just looking to make a main image layout change, and the feedback was on other aspects of it. So if all of that had been tested earlier in the process, then they would already have a better performing product.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, one of the biggest use cases I found out of it back in the day. But obviously, where we're at now, being an advertising media agency, how do you guys differentiate yourself from other market research tools that do similar things, and maybe more specifically in the context of advertising and how people are split testing things in that arena?
Yeah, we really try to focus, first of all, on data quality. Anyone who's done any kind of market research or run surveys with paid audiences knows that there's a lot of bad data out there. And a lot of market research consultants spend the bulk of our time cleaning out this data. So we do all that for you in an automated way. So we tap into the same consumer research panels that any large CPG like Kraft might do when they're doing a longer form consumer research survey. But we do so in a programmatic way, and we stitch all these panels together with programmatic means, and then use our own layers of data quality and audience targeting on top of that. And so we try to make it a very easy experience where you don't have to have any of this expertise. So it's a very simplified way to conduct consumer research. So our first differentiation against some of the more entrenched tools, I guess, that if you're in the industry, you may be familiar with, is that it's just simpler. And a lot of the people who use us aren't market research professionals. Like you don't have to be part of a consumer insights team to understand how to use PickFu, and that's kind of the beauty of it. In fact, we were in a lot of large enterprise companies where they do have consumer insights teams, but they're conducting those much larger studies. And the teams who are doing the work, maybe it's the brand manager or the marketplace Amazon manager, are able to use a tool like PickFu to get feedback on like smaller creatives or product design decisions.
So what are some of those key insights you've been able to pull for sellers, for brands, specifically within like what we've been talking about, package design, things of that nature, but also anything as it relates to advertising, like potentially titles or the keywords you should be testing, any kind of consumer key insights that you've pulled from, your services?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to generalize because I think it depends on the category that you're selling into. We see a lot of trends for sure, but in the main image area, we definitely see a lot of trends towards layouts that show packaging, show a lot of the components that you're selling. So if you're selling something that has 20 different parts, kind of laying them out in a very organized way, that always performs well. Like I said, packaging and being able to show selling points or benefits on those packaging really makes a difference. So there's a lot that can be done with the main image. We actually had a headphone manufacturer who was a customer, and they were losing out to one of their competitors. So what they did was they started, getting inspired from their competitor's main image and doing some PickFu tests. And so the first thing they did was actually just make the image larger because that's what their competitor had done, and immediately saw an increase in sales from that. But then they started iterating on a lot of different things, like adding in all the different ear size pieces that come with it, and kind of all the packaging, putting all that into the layout. And they kept iterating across about a dozen different polls. And in the end, not only did they start winning, but they were actually able to increase the price of their product just because it was performing so well. It looks so much more refined. And this is all from just improving the main image, not even touching anything with the product itself. So it's kind of incredible what impact this kind of optimization can have on your overall business revenue.
Yeah, and speaking from my point of view, I mean, just having a better click-worthy image, I'll call it, is obviously going to help ads perform. It's going to help draw that customer attention when we're at the top of search on really competitive keywords. So for those wondering how this can specifically help ads, images and creatives are becoming such a big part of it. I'm sure you're aware of it as Amazon's released generative AI in the last, couple months. Back at Unboxed in October, November it was last year. How have you guys integrated, worked with, seen any crossover between, the new AI tools and what you guys offer?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple things on the AI front. We're definitely seeing a lot more customers testing content generated by AI. I think AI is great for generating a lot of different variations of things, but at the end of the day, it's still humans who are your consumers, and so you do need to make sure that it resonates well with them. And so, pairing AI content generation or product, we actually see a lot of people doing product variation, product concept generation with AI, and then testing them out against our actual humans. is a great way to validate and kind of reduce the cost of these iterative cycles. On our own platform, we've already integrated AI into the analysis aspect of things. So if you've used PickFu before, you get a lot of written responses. And if you're doing 100, 200, 500 responses, that's a lot of written feedback to read through and try to understand the themes that you should be taking away from it. So we use AI to summarize some of those key takeaways, do kind of a sentiment analysis on the feedback, and then also have a feature where you can ask any question of your results. So kind of like an AMA, ChatGPT style open prompt, where you can just ask your responses, ask your poll results, any questions. So, how would I actually improve option A based on the feedback? Or, could you rewrite the copy based off what everyone said? Something like that.
Wow, that's really cool. So not only are you providing the tools to help analyze large amounts of data, really large amounts of qualitative data, you're helping really take that a step forward and improve products, saying, okay, now that I have the results, what should I do with this? I think that's really cool. It's been a minute since I've used PickFu, so this is all news to me. It's really cool to hear. What other changes in the industry have been happening that are kind of tweaking the way you guys offer market research?
Yeah, I mean, video is obviously a big component as people generate more content and even do kind of video-based sales on different social networks. We're seeing more video being tested, even in sponsored ads. Like video is a big component of it. So not only testing the final video product, but also testing different components as you're working on the video. So that might be the background music or voiceover, actors. Like that's a very popular thing to test. Even storyboards as you're working on the video. So we definitely advise people to test out the different decisions. As you're making something like a video, you're making all these micro decisions throughout the process. And so getting validation at, $15 a pop for 15 people to give you feedback on voices or, script or any of that is going to make a big difference in the end product. Otherwise, if you just test the final video, people might have all this negative feedback on all these different aspects of it that you just didn't get feedback. And you've already spent all these hours producing the video, and it's very frustrating to have to go and edit it again. So we definitely advise people to iteratively improve these videos as they're, putting out ads or maybe social content for their advertising.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic episode, really, for really creative departments and anyone that overlaps with advertising departments or marketing departments running these ads. Obviously, we all know how big creatives have become on Amazon, specifically with sponsor brand, sponsor display. If you're running DSP, creatives are becoming the most important thing to your ad at this point, more so probably than what you're even targeting. Just to even draw that click, draw consideration. So yeah, I think this is a fantastic conversation for any creative department that's handling those creatives, and how to learn faster, iterate faster. Is there any kind of case study you have where you saw a noticeable improvement to a brand? I'm sure you have one top of mind. I'm sure you have several top of mind, but one or two case studies or brands that you can point to saying, we really helped them change results, whether it's total brand or even advertising like we're talking about.
Yeah. Let's see. A simple one would be, we have this one on our website, which is with Yes Bar, which is one of those kind of like protein nutrition bars. And they wanted to just improve their click-through rate. So they ran a PickFu test, just changing the layout. And we worked with Daniela over at Mindful Goods for this. And we made really simple tweaks to the layout. We didn't even have to reshoot or anything. And just a few variations were tested in a single poll. I think that poll cost $70, but immediately had a 12% lift in sessions. And we made sure that everything else was held steady. Like we didn't change anything for a couple of weeks, and immediately saw that lead to about over $3,000 in extra revenue over that time period. So immediate ROI on just one test, a couple of creative variations, and a simple change. And so it really doesn't take much. And like I said, with the headphone one, if you take an even more in-depth approach to iterating on that main image, you really could not only improve sales, but also improve your price as well.
On the flip side of that, so the successes of PickFu, what have been some of the challenges you guys have faced with all these, changes to the industry, like we're talking about AI, competitors? what challenges have you guys faced with helping these brands?
Well, one thing I guess would be kind of positioning with manager experiments. I know that Amazon has its own internal live A/B testing, so there's always a question of how we compare or when you would use it. And our advice, first of all, is that they're not either or. I think you should be using both. Manager experiments is for live testing, and your listing is live, and you're testing changes that are live. So first of all, that is impacting sales. If you're putting up a very bad variation, you're potentially losing sales. And the way that we try to advise people to use it is to use PickFu to iterate on creatives before going live. So you could still use manager experiments, but you could test out dozens of different directions creatively and privately. And that's kind of the beautiful part about PickFu is that it's off platform, it's private. You could test out variations that will never see a lot of day, and maybe you just want to experiment. Maybe you're always light and airy in your kind of branding, but you want to try something dark or something edgy. You probably don't want to A/B test that on on your live listing. So it actually gives creative teams a lot more freedom to kind of explore things and see how people react. And so that's how I would pair manager experiments. So that's one point of confusion. I think that's I know Amazon's pushing really hard into manager experiments, and so there's always that comparison that's drawn.
Amazing. Yeah, I know we're running some split, or not split tests, but we're running, what is it? We're running like brand lift studies and a lot more, comprehensive data, at least within advertising. Again, trying to tie data together between what we're doing at top of funnel, bottom of the funnel. So all these tests and data, Amazon's really putting emphasis into bringing more data to advertisers and to sellers and to brands, rather than using all these third-party tools to try to piece together and cross your fingers and hope it's all right. Amazon's just coming directly and saying, hey, we'll help you run these studies and these tests. So, we're saying the same thing through our lens as well. What do you see as next for PickFu in the next, coming years? This single year, what do you see as next for you guys?
Well, we're focused a lot on expanding the product functionality. We have a few interesting product releases coming out this year. We've been expanding outside the US as well. So we've been traditionally focused on a US pool of respondents, but we've recently opened up UK, Canada, Australia, Germany, and just most recently Mexico and Japan. So if you're selling into those marketplaces, definitely do some product market validation before going into there. Make sure people actually want your product. And then if you're going to go into those markets, make sure that your branding and your packaging and your marketing creatives are going to resonate, because when there's such a big cultural difference, you can't just expect a bestseller from the US to do well in a different country. So that's really exciting for us. We have a few more countries that we're planning to roll out later in the year as well.
That's really cool. It makes a lot of sense. And yeah, even things like copy, titles, like make sure, it all translates into other cultures, literally and figuratively, as you hope.
That's the important one, the figurative one.
Yeah, exactly. What advice would you give to new brands, new sellers coming to Amazon in terms of advertising market research?
I guess, first of all, is just to get in the habit of doing it, because from when we talk to customers, they're just not gathering any kind of data at all. So whether you're using us or another kind of platform, I think just getting in the habit of gathering this kind of data, whether it's talking to a Facebook group of moms or asking your email list or whatever it is, just starting to gather the data to build the habit, because it really is a habit that you have to build to become a little bit more data driven in your decision making. And yeah, it's really just getting out of your own head. Even internally, we use PickFu obviously on a lot of different things, and it's on all things from swag that we're printing for the upcoming conferences to collateral to marketing page layouts, like all kinds of different things. And I think it's just building a culture in your organization of being more data driven. So that would be my advice.
I'm sure people, not everybody, hopefully, but I'm sure people can speak to contentious design meetings where everyone has I like this one, you like that one, and it's a complete stalemate. So at least we're making decisions on data here that's going to improve and save you money in the long run.
Yeah, and I would say that happens even more when there's an agency-client relationship, right? I think we actually have a lot of agencies that like to use PickFu as that impartial tiebreaker, so to speak, right? Because the agency always thinks that they made an improvement on the creative or something, and the client sometimes is tied to what they have already done. And so PickFu is always a nice way to say, like, well, this is your target audience, so these are complete strangers, and they're usually siding with with the agency, which is great for them, and it's a really nice way just to kind of keep the relationship moving forward without any bad blood.
If people want to check out PickFu, it is, we'll put the link down in the description below, but it's pickfu.com, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So you could sign up for free. Everything's pay as you go. And when you sign up, there's a free onboarding poll so you can kind of see what it's like before even committing any dollars to it.
Super cool. Well, Justin, thank you so much for being here today and bringing us behind the curtain on how you guys do market research and how people can do some testing before spending nearly as much as they would need to going to market to test these things. So appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin.